we are here, and I'm here. And gosh, this has been a whirlwind of a morning trying to make beignets in the nick of time. Now, beignets is our topic today. So we're going to get to it while they're cooling down because it's woke up this morning, it's 36 degrees outside. And so naturally, everything is cooling down a lot faster. So with that said, let's go ahead and start the show. Louisiana. From its iconic cities to the swamps of Acadiana, its geography is just as diverse as the people that live there. To this day, family is at the core of who we are, and one of the things we love to do is share. As a rainy Cajun joined by my cousin David, we might be what you consider Louisiana expats. Spread across the U.S., our goal remains to introduce and share our culture with more people than ever before about the place we still call home. So grab your favorite beverage, find a spot to sit back and relax. The next episode begins now. All right, we are here. And let me see, I got a little music for you guys. There we go. Okay. So today, as I mentioned in our little opening, today we're talking about beignets, and if I seems a little wired, it's because I am. It's powdered sugar, caffeine, all the good things to get a day going. I've had it already, so that plus I've been sitting out in way cold weather cooking these things, so it's been quite an interesting morning, and I wanted to bring in David because we got a lot to talk about today. I thought it was just beignets, and how we're going to stretch beignets into a 45 minute segment. I don't think that's going to be a problem. So let's get David in. All right, Dave, how you doing?
Hey, good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me? Okay.
I hear you fine.
Okay, perfect. All right.
My eye's back.
Your eye is back. That's right. Well, that's we don't have to, put your wife through the Law and Order thing anymore. So that's good.
Yeah.
So today we're here to talk about beignets, and and I thought that this would be an appropriate subject to discuss today because, when you think about it, we've got, the holiday is coming up and lots of families are going to be home. And this just seems like, I think a lot of people, frankly, when I lived back home in New Orleans, we always went to go get these. We never made them at home because they can be a little bit on the messy side, just in the prep side and then the cooking side. And I literally just got out of the shower because I smelled like cottonseed oil cooking up these beignets this morning. So I kind of wanted to just get everything set up, and then I was thinking, I was like, well, what are we gonna discuss? And then, as I haven't made beignets since we owned the restaurant. And so it's been, it's been almost 3 years, right? But it's kind of like being on a bicycle.
Riding a bike?
Yeah. I hate to sound cliche, but it kind of is. It's like I started getting it. So I didn't have all the fancy restaurant equipment to do, things quickly. But I didn't have a mixer. I had to get in and do a little elbow grease, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But, it was really good. It ended up just coming back to me. And, of course, with it being, I never had to cook in, sub 40 degree temperatures before. So, and we have your video that we'll queue up and play in a little bit. My video is sitting on my phone in multiple pieces right now, so I'm going to edit that down. It's one of the nice things about having 2 hours on me is that you can get a little bit more done before the show gets started. So
my beignets didn't turn out as good looking as the one I saw you preview before we started. So
yeah. Well, it's all about the presentation, man.
Yeah. Like I said, you made a lot more of them than I ever have too. So
yeah,
a lot of the You put the reps in.
Yeah, I definitely put the reps in. That was one of the things. And I got a shout out to my wife. She was able to make the bacon praline sauce, which is something that we introduced at the restaurant for the first time. And I got that inspiration from a donut company here in Seattle. And I'll give the recipe at the end of the episode because it's something, it's fun. It's fun to do. It's a cute little take on it. But I got the recipe from the name of the donut shop is called Frost Donuts. They're up here in the Northwest. I don't know how far they go. But for Elvis's birthday, Elvis was apparently a fan of bacon and maple. So they did a bacon maple bar. And so they had, the maple sauce on top of the donut bar, and then they had the bacon sprinkled on top of that. And it was great. But then I thought, well, maple bacon's not so much, but I can know something that looks like, maple sauce, but tastes authentically New Orleans. And so, praline sauce. So anyway, for those of you who are interested, definitely stick around till the end of the show because I got the full-on recipe. And we got Ben with us. Hey, Ben, how's it going, man? And
Hey, Ben.
let's see. And then I've got a special guest in studio here. He is here from flight school. This is my son, Ren. He's off for I don't know how the hell they get a month off from school. I don't ever remember having a month off, but maybe because he's a pilot or something, he gets special perks or something.
More so like 3 weeks or something, but I like to call it a month just to give my brain that satisfaction.
In your head, it's kind of it sounds better than 3 weeks.
Yeah, telling myself it's a month. So
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I got my cafe au lait here.
I've been drinking mine as well
You
with
have?
the authentic Café du Monde coffee.
Oh, okay.
So.
Well, we got let's see. Ben's brother here. Y'all ever had challah? I haven't.
Challah, kala.
Kala?
Are you talking about like the rice cake? Rice kala, Callallas. I think it's a rice fritter is what I think you're referring to. It's a New Orleans it's one of those fried rice balls. That's
okay.
it. Yeah, so yes, I have. So it's basically think of it like rice pudding, and you deep fry it like you would the beignets. But if I remember the history correctly, the African American women, I don't remember if it was during the Civil War or after, on Sundays after Mass in the French Quarter, they would always take the leftover rice and form it in a ball with flour and eggs and similar type of mixture that you have with the beignet, and then you would deep fry it, and it makes a nice round puffy ball. And I've seen them kind of look like they've either been coated in something or just deep fried like we did with the beignets. But I've made them a couple of times, and they are very good. It's like a deep fried light bread pudding to me. So
okay.
I can get you a couple of recipes to try if you want to try it.
Cool. All right. Well, let's get back on our topic at hand here. So we do have the beignets, and David, this was your outcome from this morning, right?
Yeah, little jagged edges, but that's okay.
Comes with a little warning label, caution, jagged edges on the beignets.
That's right.
They look good to me.
They are very tasty.
Yeah, I mean, the truth be told, these can look like hell and still taste good. It's just like I said, it's in the presentation of things, and so we both used the mix, right?
Yep.
And my mix is back there behind. Let's see if I move there. It is back there.
There it is.
So, so the mix, and then of course the Café du Monde coffee. So just going all in authentic. Now, beignets have been around in New Orleans way before we were born. Way before. I think I was looking at the back of the box. It said 1862.
Yeah, I was doing a little more history on that, but go ahead. Tell
Yeah.
me what you remember.
Well, that's what I remember is, we didn't go to the one in Jackson Square all that much because going
Yeah.
from Metairie to Jackson Square was kind of a haul when you had morning call on Severn Avenue in Metairie. Right?
Yeah.
So we went to morning call a lot. Or my dad would go and pick up a bag, and you know how they did it, right? They put the donuts in and then they'd toss the
Yeah.
powdered sugar on it, and then they just shake the hell out of the bag and everything was coated.
Yeah.
I have a story for the after show, which, by the way, I didn't publish, and that's my fault this week. I didn't publish it. We're going to have an after show, but we will. I've got some stories about cooking beignets and eating beignets with non-beignet folks. It's I'm gonna save that for the after show, though. It's kind of funny. But do you have some other historical data for Café du Monde?
So when I was I forgot until this morning that I had this book. Not that it's a plug or anything, but New Orleans coffee.
Okay.
And there's, as you can imagine, there's a lot about New Orleans coffee, and most people associate New Orleans coffee with coffee and chicory,
Right.
and which is what the Café du Monde coffee is. And so there's a little chapter in there about Café du Monde in the stand. And back in the French market in the old days, it was that's where everybody went to grocery shop, make groceries in the old days there.
Yep.
So you have your live chickens and your fish and your stalls for the different things, and of course everything was in barrels or bulk.
Right.
And they had coffee stalls, and those coffee stalls gradually morphed into coffee stands.
Right.
And so they said, the owners of Café du Monde, at least when this book was written, that there was a coffee stand in the place that is there now that opened in 1862.
Okay.
And it did not have a name, or it did not call itself Café du Monde. But by 1887, I think, is when the Café du Monde brand came out for coffee, and they started selling that coffee there. I think Café du Monde was actually kind of using them as part of their advertisement.
Okay.
And so the name stuck. And actually, they were saying that before that, the market actually used to, or the coffee stand would actually sell French market coffee, which is what morning call is used. And we can touch on morning call at the end, but
Right.
but anyway, so the name stuck with Café du Monde, and then they were donuts had been popular in those stands back as early as the 1870s. But I remembered something, and that's why I was kind of looking for that book, because I was looking through some of the old newspapers I can get subscriptions to,
Mm-hmm.
and the name beignet really has not been used except since like the 1950s, like 1958.
Interesting. What was it before?
Donuts. They just called them donuts. French donuts.
So was the beignet thing kind of a tourism thing, or was that, to kind of make it distinctly New Orleans, or was it,
I guess because it didn't really state, but I've a couple of old newspaper articles. I have to clip them and send them to you.
Okay.
Because that was like they were saying that up until that time, and if you even look on the picture on the box, I think it says coffee and donuts on the shop itself.
Okay.
And but they said that a beignet is like a French term that's derived from a Celtic term or Celtic term, whatever, for like a fritter.
Okay.
And so we don't know whether or not if that's an actual term that I can't remember if that's an actual term that's used in France, but the people say that it's more of a Spanish fritter than it is a French fritter. But
Okay.
but anyway, it's a unique style of donut, and I think they just decided to capitalize on its uniqueness and differentiate it from the standard donuts that the rest of America eats with the hole in the middle, and change the name. But I mean, that was only like 11 years before I was born, so so it's real.
You
I
don't
mean,
need
I
to
grew
date
up.
yourself,
Yeah, I know. But anyway, I mean, that's just kind of an interesting thing. I had kind of forgot that they had actually had a different name for them. or just called them donuts.
Yeah.
So it would be interesting to find out if there is because obviously it took off not just with Café du Monde, but obviously Morning Call.
Right.
And Morning Call was also in the French Quarter, I think even before Café du Monde, but it was like on the other end of the quarter. I guess that might be downriver. And so they were there, and then in 1974 they moved to where you and I remember them being out by Lakeside.
Right.
And they have a like slightly different beignet recipe, but these coffee stands went from being just coffee stands to being beignet and cafe au lait and beignet stands. So,
but
anyway,
it's interesting. They've kind of cornered the market. They were what we served in the restaurant, and frankly, it was easier to go to World Market and buy a case off of their shelves and then just go from there than it was buying from the Café du Monde folks directly because of the shipping costs. You know, I'm sure World Market had a deal or something, but you know, they got the coffee and everything like that. But how much is the mix going for you right now where you're at?
I can't remember. It's under $10. It was like, I can't remember if it was between 5 and 8, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Ours was at World Market. It was $5.99.
So it's closer to 5. It was.
Yeah.
It wasn't. It might have been 4. I can't remember. I think it was around 5. And I mean, the mix has been around. I remember when we moved to Mobile in the 80s, and the box, to me, I know it's changed subtly, but it looks the same as what I've remembered for the last 30 plus years.
Yeah. It hasn't changed. And, you know, I guess one of the things that the back of the box has on it is, you know, 4 simple steps, right?
Yeah.
And then everything you see online is people bitching about the fact that they couldn't get it to look like the beignets that they remember, and they had the mix, and you know, they when it like I remember the very first time I made beignets at the restaurant, what came out with the 7 ounces of water that they recommend, and then the 2 cups of mix, it was just dry. But it was, you know, with enough elbow grease, it eventually turned into a kind of a ball of dough, right? And then you sprinkle some flour on it, roll it out. But I'm convinced that a lot of people thought, oh no, it can't be this dry, and then they'd add water.
Yeah.
And there is no room for interpretation here. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You know, baking is different from you know, barbecuing or something. There's a distinct difference in the way that the outcome, if you start making changes in measurements. I think the only thing that we did at the restaurant is because I would get 1, 2, I think I would get 2 orders out of a single rolled out flat from 2 cups. I think that's what I was getting.
But you were making yours a little bit bigger than what they say on the instructions too.
Yeah. Well, clearly, I mean, but you know, it's like I'm sorry. If you're going to charge somebody $4 for 3 donuts, there better be some substance to them.
I agree.
You know, but the when they said it was like, I don't know, 2 by 2 or something on the back of the box, I'm like, what?
Yeah, 2 1/4 by 2 1/4.
Yeah, no. Just don't.
Yeah.
I have some tips that I'll go through later.
And they helped me out. They helped me out because, as I was telling you, I think I've tried this mix 3 times over the course of 25 years. And every time I have had problems with the beignets actually rising and being fluffy.
Right.
And this time I figured out part of my problem, and we'll share that as well.
Okay.
And you probably even mentioned it to me, but I think it's a couple of things. But the last time I actually made them before this, oftentimes when my sister's kids would spend the night over here, I would do beignets the next morning for them. And the last time I just used John Folse's recipe,
right?
Which is a lot more labor intensive because it involves yeast and
Right.
rolling and sitting and rising of the dough. And so I was very pleased that I got a very decent results here, which I hope, since I only use half the box in a couple of weeks, I'll try it again with the with your sauce. And I hope to report back that I've come closer in my evolution or mastery in beignet making, because like I said, there's a lot of things that just I thought a lot of the ingredients might have gone flat, but it's a lot to do with the technique, like you were telling me about.
Absolutely. And for truth be told, for this episode, I had a box that technically had an expiration date from October of this year, and then the other box that I bought yesterday was January of 2024. So we're talking 3 months difference, right? Exact same result. So,
Okay,
if you're talking like you're looking at a box that's 5 years old, there's probably that's probably worth tossing. But if it's within a month or so, or maybe even 3 months of expiration, I think you'll be fine. But it is very much the technique. That's more than anything else. It's the technique. And then, and again, not interpreting things. And then using proper equipment. One of the first things that I noticed when I did beignets in the restaurant was when I put it into a mixer with that kind of Captain Hook mixer arm. Yeah. Perfect. Every single time. Perfect. I mean, I just run it in there, and I could just run that while I'm making one batch. I can just run the next batch inside the mixer. And literally all I did was 7 ounces of water, 2 cups of flour, and just kept doing that. And it worked out great. But when you're doing it by hand, one of the things I'll have in my video is my first 2 screw ups where I'm like trying to get this thing to do it, using a wooden spoon inside of a stainless steel bowl, and it came out. But then I realized if you kind of mimic the motion of that hook arm in a mixer, and you spin the mixing bowl while you're kind of pulling on the dough, it starts to rotate around itself, and eventually it'll grab all the little specks of things that are left inside the bowl. So the bowls should be relatively clean when you're done mixing everything together.
Yeah, and that was sort of I guess from my previous experience, I knew not to add any extra water, because we oftentimes make pizza from, I say scratch, but we've got a mix for the dough.
Right.
And I always end up doing the dough, and I always end up, if I ever add just a little bit more water than it talks about, then it becomes really sticky in a bad way.
Yeah.
And I can't get it to spread. So I measured everything precisely out, and I used the wooden handle, wooden spoon in a glass bowl. And I had to pause my video at some point just so I could get everything off the side. But when you start, but it goes from, I think I was watching somebody else who was saying, it's not going to be, mine came out very sticky at the end.
Yeah.
And that's kind of sort of what I remembered, I guess, from doing it from scratch, that's what it needed to be.
Yep.
And, but your point is perfect in the fact that if you put too much water, it becomes more gluey, I guess is what I would say.
Yeah.
And then you just really can't, and then you start adding more mix to it or flour, and then it's like, it's hard to come back from that if you overdo it. So first recommendation is follow the instructions on the amounts precisely.
Right, exactly. Just don't leave it up to interpretation. There's been lots of people that have done that, and trust me, it's just not worth it. You're going to be disappointed by the result. All right, so with that said, let's go ahead and we'll put your video up so people can see at least one of us working, because this was I have it, like I said, I have it on video. But
I was going to ask before you started.
Well, sure.
You didn't make Ren wait for to try any of these, did he? Did he already get to eat some?
I did.
Okay, good.
I did.
I just thought it'd be torturous if you're just sitting there and he's watching.
This is what I'm staring at right now, and I'm going, I got to eat this. But as you know, I know what's going to happen. You know, they're going to get colder and colder, and then they're not the same. They're not the same. Yeah. So anyway, let's go ahead and cue this video up. So this is the box, obviously.
Yeah.
And here are the 4 steps.
Yep.
And they do, like I said, this is the mix. It looks just like flour, but really all you're doing is you're mixing. Literally, all you're doing is you're mixing water and the mix together. That's it to create your beignet. So
and what people use a good description is that if you're used to making Bisquick drop biscuits, that's the kind of consistency. You can see that stickiness that it's achieving there.
Yeah, that's yep. And so that's exactly what you do. You lay down a bunch of flour because otherwise it will stick like glue to whatever surface you apply it to.
So in my case, I actually ended up using almost a full cup of flour because, of course, I edited it down so that you did not see when I'm rolling it out how sticky it looks and how much of a problem it was going to be. So I kept adding flour, but roughly I took about a cup of flour. So if you start with a half a cup and then incorporate it enough, then you ought to be good when you get to the rolling part.
You know what? I'll just pause it right here. You know, what you're seeing right here, actually prior, just a few steps prior here, where it's sticky like this, that is ripe for just coating it in flour, and you don't need to like just dribble it on. You can at that point, because that flour is going to mix in. You obviously don't want to over flour it. Look, if your beignets come out with white powder on the outside, then you've added too much flour, and it's not like they went to Miami or something. But there's so yeah, and it's sticking to your hands like that. So that's common, but with enough folding in of the flour, you definitely get what is that? Is that a makeshift roller, or is that your roller?
I think it's like a fondant roller, because when I was doing my tea cookies, my friend in Vacherie was telling me I need to get that. So if you go back to the back, back it up a little bit, where I show that little yellow ring on it. So
so that's measured out, right? That's like the thickness you want.
That's about a quarter inch, like you suggest. So the box says 1/8 of an inch, and you and Folse's recipe both say roll it out to a quarter inch.
Yep.
And so that is, I think, one of the keys to getting it fluffy or airy.
Yeah, and so what you've got here is like the little peppered like chunks. That's it's just something that you want to try and avoid if it's as smooth as possible. Like for me, I had enough enough flour applied to the dough that I could pick these up by hand. I didn't need to use a spatula, and they didn't stick to the tabletop.
Right.
Matter of fact, I had the whole kitchen clean before the missus even woke up. So
but you can see, those little things on them. Yeah, they kind of make those little burrs or something. But this is the other technique to make them puff. You got to keep them moving. Now, of course, this is accelerated speed, but
it is.
Yeah, I'm not that fast. But you got to keep them moving to puff up. And you see some of them aren't real puffy.
Yep.
And the ones toward the back are. But I think the keys that you taught me is the fact that keep them about a quarter inch thick. Make them more like I did some mostly 2x3s, but I think even 2.5 by 3.5 might be better.
Yeah.
And then constantly get your temperature to, I use 370 and keep it moving. Now, you also told me, and I didn't have a chance to get any, I couldn't find it, but just like they use at Café du Monde, as I learned from some other videos, you use cottonseed oil to fry it in.
Yes. Cottonseed oil. I actually had to order from Amazon because our local restaurant supplier that we used to get it from discontinued it. Now, for those of you who are wondering, never cooked with cottonseed oil before, it's a nice neutral flavor. It doesn't really do anything. It's got a super high smoke point, so it is what they cook the original beignets in. And you want to make sure that if you're trying to go with an authentic experience, I think just shy of a gallon's worth of cottonseed oil ran me about $25, with Prime and all that other stuff. So definitely have a different use for it. But you know what? You could, what we often did is we'd cook fries in it later in the day. And I mean, it's a great oil. It's a great oil. Yeah. And you read stuff online and there's people talking about pesticides and all this other crap and it's not healthy for you. Ah, screw it. You know what? It's not like you're eating this stuff every day. If you are, then you've got other issues. But this is a, even for New Orleanians, this is kind of a delicacy. This is something like if you go out to a show or you go to a family event in New Orleans in the French Quarter, you usually end up at Café du Monde late in the evening having coffee and beignets and getting all of your black clothing just completely doused in powdered sugar.
I think I read that they can seat up to 400 people in that area.
I believe it. Yeah, that place is, it's just crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
It's open to the outside elements, both weather-wise and people-wise.
Yes,
that come by.
That's a good point. New Orleans does have its, let's just call them entertainers, whether they intend to be or not.
Right. So you have that, and the other thing, when you go to those tables, because I think we've been to there twice in my lifetime with the kids and all.
Yeah.
And so part of it is you get there and there's all those tables, and basically you're watching until a table comes free,
right?
And then you kind of make a mad dash to the table, and half the time there's still crap on the table from the previous people.
Glasses piled up and coffee cups and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's an experience, and they, like I said, it's amazing how much. I'm sure there's a fact and figure out there how many pounds of beignets or how many dozens or whatever they make a day there. Because isn't it open 24 hours a day?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I believe so.
And it's probably crowded pretty much every 24 hours a day too. Well,
certainly there's certain times of day I'm guessing that, the witching hour is probably not so busy, but the most of the time, certainly late evenings, but on the weekends, you might as well just if just be prepared to wait, and frankly, you can make this stuff at your house. I mean, you don't need to go to New Orleans to do it. Seriously, it's like this is just as good, and if you just follow the simple steps, everything will turn out great, and you'll be, if you're going to bring these to a party, well, you know what? I wouldn't bring these anywhere. This would be something that I would serve at my house, right? I mean, this would be something like you could prepare them ahead of time, but just be prepared to have that oil ready when dinner's ready so that you can fry up as many as possible as quickly as possible, because you're not going to want to have people, you don't want people sitting around waiting for theirs, and the ones that are cooked, you can't let be cold, right? Because as soon as they go cold, they're going to be chewy.
So the other point that I was wanted to make is you can kind of see it in my videos that I started off, and whenever you're doing this, especially at the house, any type of frying you do, try to use clean oil to begin with.
Yes, definitely.
Because do not use any previously, even if you strained it. And now I'm going to save this oil and strain it and use it for the next batch. I use vegetable oil.
Right.
Right. But I'm going to strain it to use for the next batch of the beignets I make. Because if you've done any frying, and enough, and you've used too many other things in it, it's not gonna be the cleanest flavor of your, whether it's fried fish or French fries or something. You always want to start with a clean oil, so that you'll get as close to the like Jeremy's saying, flavor that you'll get in New Orleans if you use that everything clean and follow the directions. And it may just take you a little practice. So don't get discouraged. Like, at five, what would you say it was, a little over $5 a box? That's 4 dozen. So, you can get a lot of practice in, and then heck, by the time, if you end up spending $20, you ought to be an expert at that point.
Yeah, right. That's right. That's right. Yeah. And I wouldn't, definitely wouldn't let people get discouraged about this. And that's why, let me switch over to my slides here. So this is Rango way. Okay. So, so this is some tips that I just put together. First of all, I'm using cold water when I'm mixing.
Good point.
It seems as the dough comes to room temperature, it does want to poof a little bit. So that leads me to believe that there may be some yeast in this mix. I'm guessing there is. You can see in the picture, actually, these are some beignets I made at the restaurant. This little line that's along the line that's along the side of the beignet, the edge of the beignet, that's really just the beignet kind of separating when it's cooking, but it's perfectly normal if you have that look.
Yeah.
That's probably a function of the way the dough was cut and the way that it rose. So mix with a round stirring motion. So don't chop it, don't fold it, just turn it. And you'll like I was saying, if you turn the bowl in the opposite direction that you're mixing the dough, that gives you a nice round ball at the end. And you do not need to add water. If it looks dry, it will look dry. Trust us. If it looks sticky, it will look sticky. That's all normal. Just have a little thing of flour for you ready afterwards to coat your hands, coat the surface that you're going to be preparing this on. And then obviously you can toss it on there. It's not going to negatively impact the flavor of the beignets. And you should see how much flour they use at Café du Monde.
Yeah.
That's the reason why they all wear white. They all wear white. I mean, it's white aprons, white hats, everything's white. Only the servers wear black pants, and by the end of the night, those are destroyed. So I've got 2.5 by 4 inch rectangles, cutting them to about 3/16. 1/4 inch it depends on the temperature of the beignet. If it's a little cold at 1/4 inch, it may take a little bit more time for it to poof. Whereas 3/16, and you don't have to be super precise here, but you can eyeball it. 1/8 inches paper thin, that's way too thin. You're going to have basically what looks like pita bread crackers coming out, and it's not good. So, so you want it at least 3/16 inch, but not any more than 1/4 inch. If you start going like 3/8 and stuff like that, then that's that you're going to have a really thick piece of pita bread. The oil has to be at 370, not 350, not 385, 370. And there's a reason for that. 350, it won't poof correctly. 380, it'll burn quickly. So 370 is a nice point, and that's a temperature they give on the back of the box. But definitely, and give yourself time between batches. If you're dealing with cold dough, like I was just doing when I was cooking outside, I was dropping the temperature of the oil every time I'd add in 3 more beignets. It would drop anywhere between 15 and 20 degrees, the oil temperature would. And that's substantial for almost a gallon of oil, completely enveloped in my green egg. But that's what it did. And, of course, being 35, 36 outside, that has a lot to do with it too. Cottonseed or neutral oil. I'm not sure about, like, I like cottonseed oil. I've used, it's super expensive and kind of a waste, but I've used olive oil That does impart flavor. Peanut oil does impart flavor. Not bad, but just different. And I haven't had them done with vegetable oil in a long time. Do you feel like the flavor profile that you got out of the vegetable oil was good?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't find it imparted anything that was bad.
Okay.
Or, I think peanut oil would be an interesting thing, but it probably would be I don't know if it'd be too crunchy.
Right.
But like I said, when, the things that you were telling me, which I know you had done your research in the beginning, and I can't remember if it's on the box that talks about cottonseed also, but in some videos where people were down at Café du Monde, they freely tell you that's what they use.
Right.
And so, like you said, I mean, if you're trying to nail that flavor, it takes maybe a few steps to make sure you get all your ingredients ahead of time. But next time, I'll try to make sure I get that enough in advance so that I can duplicate it and really see. But I don't think it didn't do anything. I'm not going to say, and it didn't do anything to take away from the flavor, in my opinion.
Okay. Okay, cool. Let's see. Now personally for me, I flipped it once just to poof it up. You said you were constantly turning it, and I don't have any issues with that. I guess it would be. I think it comes down to the way it's cooking. Like my oil was deep enough that I could I would tip the corner, and you'll see this in my video when I have it done. But I tip the one corner, and it flips the entire beignet over.
Yeah.
And so I let it poof up, and if I need to, I'll ladle some oil on the top to make it poof more quickly.
Yeah.
Especially
and that's
if
what they
it's
talk
slow.
about.
Yeah. Yeah, you wanna douse them in the hot oil as much as possible. I just was trying to minimize the time that the oil was spent out of the heat source. So I was trying to keep it, all together as much as possible. Because ladling it with a cold stainless steel spoon was like, nah.
Yeah.
Mental note: cook at room temperature if you can.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean and that's it. But you actually have an excellent point there, because there's a lot of people who aren't real fond of deep frying in their house.
Sure.
And so, even though you did it on a big green egg, those others will be using gas jets or something out there.
Yep.
Deep fryers and such. The box actually recommends an electric fryer, and usually I will use like not a Fry Daddy, but something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we had just cleaned the oil from ours, and so I was kind of instructed not to dirty anything else up. So
kind of instructed.
Yeah, yeah.
Strongly suggested.
Yeah, strongly suggested.
There you go. Okay.
So my temperatures probably did not stay as constant as yours, and so that would be the other thing is try to do something where you can maintain that heat source, like you're saying, so that mine got a little hot. I tried to let it cool down. And that's why I think me turning mine around a lot came into play, like you're saying, because of the depth and possibly the heat. But they also talk about basting it. And so that's kind of it. But I guess the main thing is if you don't see it puffing up, you may want to make sure it'll sink, and then it'll rise up to the top in about 8 seconds.
Right.
And then if you don't see it really puffing, that's why I started kind of turning it around to really kind of get heat on both sides before it cooked too much.
Yep. Let's see. And then let's see what other tips that I have here. I try to, if the oil's at the right temperature, 30 seconds per side is all you need.
Correct.
You don't need to go really much longer than that. And that's again, if you're using something like a Fry Daddy or something like that, it does do a much better job of maintaining temperature. So you could pretty much hold to the 30 seconds per side for batch after batch after batch with minimal downtime. I mean, I would do, like right now, I'm doing three donuts, 3 beignets, waiting 10 minutes, and then doing another 3 because I have to wait for the oil to get back up. But otherwise, yeah, 30 minutes or 30 seconds per side is ideal. And then pull from the oil. We had a rack, kind of like a, if you have something that you want it to drain, we just put that on a rack, and then we put some paper towels underneath it. And then, apply the toppings immediately while you still have the oil kind of right below the surface, because it helps the toppings adhere to the surface. Yeah. So it really is. It's all in the process, more than anything else.
And I mean, the other thing I was thinking about is that when you go to Café du Monde and getting it, it's going to be piping hot. Now, it's not going to be so hot that you can't eat it, but it's going to be hot because they're doing that process just like you said. And I think that they already serve it, like you said, with powdered sugar on it.
Right.
I don't think now if you go to Morning Call, they will actually bring them to you nude, if you will. I mean, the beignets, not the people. And then you put
Thank God. Have you seen some of those servers? I'm like, oh, Jesus. How long you been working, buddy?
Yeah. As long as they're not working the grease, then they're probably okay. But so I digressed. But anyway, so they've got the shakers, the old style aluminum shakers with the powdered sugar,
right?
That you can do that, and that probably actually makes it worse if you're trying not to get it all over the place.
This is one of my stories, by the way.
Yeah. So okay, but so that point is just like to going back to what you were saying, because I mean, my kids were up, but I was trying to get everything done and filmed, so they weren't as hot as I would have liked them to be.
Sure.
Per your suggestions. So they're still tasty, but they're not as they don't have that poof of hot air when you bite into them, and that you'll get when they're fresh out of the fryer. Yeah.
And one other tip I didn't put on there, like you did it, and I did it too with the pizza cutter. You try and trim down your rolled out dough, and of course it's going to be round when it's flattened with the rolling pin, and then you trim the sides off, the kind of the jagged edges, the rounded edges. Mm-hmm. Ren, we tasted those are I actually tossed those in to make sure that the oil was the right temperature, right? And they look like beignet fingers, right?
The long ones?
Yeah. That was good.
Yeah, it was good. I like them.
I mean, it's, like I said, it looked like hell. It still tastes good.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, if anybody throughout the country, if they're not from Louisiana and they haven't had real beignets, and if they've never had even, I say fake beignets, you may have something close if you've gone to some type of carnival or fair and had a funnel cake.
Right.
That's about the closest thing. The problem I have with funnel cakes is that they seem to be so awfully greasy, and but it's sort of a similar concept. The texture's different too, but that's about the closest thing I can kind of think about, other than if you go to like some formal pastry shop.
Right. Yeah. They are unique, and a lot of people, like even my original chef for the restaurant, he wanted to do his own interpretation of it, and I'm just like, no, this is not open to interpretation. It's either a beignet or it's not. That's really the way it is.
So to touch on that a bit, when we first moved to Mobile, that's one of the things I told you we were able to get somebody's version of a muffalata,
right,
which was pretty good. But there was actually a couple places here that were doing beignets, and one of them called it a Mobile beignet. And basically what they did is they took the dough.
It's a get out of jail free card.
Was that?
Yeah, it's like a get out of jail free. We're going to do this on the Mobile way. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but they twisted it, it was like a twist on it. I mean, it was literally, it was a twist on the thing. And it was good, but it did not give that airiness to it that you would get. But since then, Mobile has evolved in the sense that we actually have a local beignet place, Beign-yay's, that makes them in the traditional manner. They probably have a little bit different seasoning, but they make them in the rectangular cuts. And similar to what you do, she's come up with some syrups that she puts on hers. And sauces. And then of course now we also have PJ's here that does their version of it too.
Right. Yeah, the one that I've seen that's been kind of interesting has been like the filled beignets. Like they'll fill
I've heard
them
about that.
Yeah, like a kind of like a filled donut, like Bavarian cream. And okay, sure. I mean, you can do what you want. It at this point you're kind of blurring the distinction between a beignet and a donut, but whatever. I mean, this is one area where, when it comes to toppings, I am okay with leaving things to interpretation, but the actual formation of the beignet itself, that airy, light, fluffy pastry has its own unique texture and flavor properties that I don't think should be messed with. But if you prefer to have powdered sugar or something other than powdered sugar on your beignets, then by all means give it a shot. I mean, next week I want to do some stuff. I want to do like we probably should talk about this before I say anything on the show.
Yeah.
But but I wanted to like decorate some stuff with green and red icing, right? And that's not, you don't see that a lot. I think Mama made like she would do like the Rice Krispie treats, and then sometimes put the the icing on top of it. But anyway, there was one of so back to this. So you can see here, that's my phone. So we've got our traditional beignets here, and you can notice like they are. There we go. See, they're quite fluffy.
Yep.
And these all came out really good. I'm really happy with these, and we didn't have a shaker. My wife just said, "Why don't you just take a colander and just tap the colander?" I was like, "Oh, well, yeah, sure, work great." Yeah. So now go ahead.
I was gonna say I did something similar. I just took one of those little sieves, one of the smaller ones, put a spoon of it, and just kind of tapped it and did the same sort of thing.
Yeah, it works either way. It totally works. And then of course this is the one with the bacon maple. Jeremy. Bacon praline. So this, you can see.
That looks good.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. So this one, let me switch over to the. And no, I'm not going to eat these on camera, so because they're going to be messy. Notice that I'm wearing your Milton shirt today. I'm not wearing my black. Well, I'm not wearing my black shirt because it's going to look like I just stepped out of my drug dealer's place if I do that.
Yeah, the ones I'm going to eat, I didn't put any powder on them because I figured with mine being cold, I just eat them al dente, or not al dente, al natural. Sorry.
Natural. So this is I wanted to give Rand, go away. You keep getting in there.
You want some beignets, man?
I know. So this is the bacon praline topping. And this is what I gave you, David. So you'll be able to do it. So it's really straightforward. Heavy cream, brown sugar, butter, a little bit of salt. Add some vanilla in at the end after that. The other things have been cooked. And then just go buy yourself some bacon bits. I mean, if you want to take the extra work and fry up some bacon and then cut it yourself, you're more than welcome to be my guest. But bacon bits in the oven or in a saute pan for a little bit just to kind of crisp them up. Perfect. Exactly what you need. So you see here, the number one, just bring it all to a boil for about a minute. Then you remove from the heat, you stir in the vanilla, and then you let it stand. It starts to kind of harden a little bit, and then you ladle over the beignets, and then you add the sprinkled bacon bits on top of that. So, there's a theme here. It's all about, the timing, right? So it's It really is. It's like boom, 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 boom. So you have to have everything lined up in order for it to come out looking and tasting good. So as long as you're prepared for that, then, and that's something that's just going to come with experience. But this kit, this box, this guy right here makes it super easy. I mean, if you want to replicate, this is the easiest way to do it. And then, of course, we also have the Café du Monde coffee. So the Olay. So Olay is steamed milk. So it's half and half. So it's coffee and chicory using the Café du Monde. You can get, there's a lot of coffee and chicory. And I read something about the chicory was a coffee substitute. And it was used as kind of a filler during World War II because there were shortages in coffee beans. Is that
well? Even before that, I think a lot of the stories attribute it to the Civil War, because the Union had captured New Orleans pretty early in the Civil War. So there's not a lot of Civil War activity in New Orleans other than being occupied. But I think a lot of that also dealt with having restrictions in certain things, being a port city and all that. And of course, preferentially, they probably would divert that to the Union people instead of to the Confederacy. So, but over the years, so they take the chicory root and roast it and grind it up. And so that became something that out of necessity, as an extender, the folks from Louisiana or from New Orleans in particular really developed a taste for. Because it's funny, because if you go out to like Lafayette, I think they got things like Mellow Joy, which I've never tried, which is just a coffee, but no chicory. So I think coffee chicory is somewhat, I don't know if it's somewhat to do with just our European background there or what, but you're right. At that point in the 1860s to 1880s, they started having, like we already talked about, French Market, Café du Monde.
right?
And what it really is that they all have either their base coffees are different, and then their chicory proportions are different.
Right.
And so my mom's dad worked for what was it called? The American Coffee Company or something like that. And they're the ones who actually represented and did French Market, which is probably why I've been drinking French Market since I've been 5 years old. And
5 years old. Wow, Ren. I think that's even predates when you started drinking coffee.
I didn't start drinking coffee till like 7th grade, I think.
7th grade, not 7
That's
years
pretty
old.
early.
Not 7 years old. 7th grade, not 7 years old. Yeah.
Yeah. But y'all are in the coffee area too, with Starbucks and such too. So,
Yeah.
I saw that look on your face, Jeremy.
No. I mean, no, I drink it, but I will not. There's first of all, yes, Seattle is very much a coffee city, and it has a lot of great coffee roasters in town. They all have their unique style. My wife and I prefer this company, and maybe eventually I can, if I remember, I'll buy you a bag of it. It's whole bean, but it's called it's not called Kami Coffee, Ben, but it's called Espresso Vivace, and we get it in I think it's half-pound bags, or maybe it's pound bags. I forget. It's not the cheapest stuff on the planet, but it's really good, and it produces a nice coffee or a nice like espresso drink. And Starbucks is convenient because it's like on every freaking corner.
There's one 5 minutes away from my house.
Yeah.
But no, but like I said, a good history really is that. I mean, like I said, you could put a link to it, Jeremy, in the notes, because it's not a big book, but they talk about some roasters that are probably not around still, because this was like even just 5-6 years ago. This was probably right pre-COVID. So I'm sure some people have closed up shop there.
Right.
But it gives you a good idea of the history of some of the evolutions of some of the coffees in New Orleans, and so I mean, but it's been a staple with the beignets for, like I said, or donuts as they were called, apparently, at least since the 1870s.
Right.
So, I mean, this is like 150-year-old combination, marriage, whatever you want to call it, of these two things together. And and it's probably one of your most quintessential New Orleans experiences if you were trying to do a bucket list of things. And so if you don't like coffee or you don't like chicory, and the Café au lait also does something because it helps. The chicory is bitter to a lot of people.
Well, the milk cuts it. It
Exactly.
really does. It does. It cuts it, and it makes it I've grown accustomed to drinking straight out black coffee and chicory.
Yeah.
But I'm in the minority in my household.
Yeah. Well, it took me. I was drinking Café au lait basically until I was maybe 7th grade, 8th grade. And then I started switching over to where I did coffee and sugar. And then I went to even where yes, Ben, that's what we talked about.
Yeah.
And then I went to where I just drank it black, probably for maybe 30 years or so.
Yeah.
Now. And sometimes, it's interesting because the roasting can be, they all do it a little different, even within the same brand. It can be some things can be different, and then I'm sure your coffee purists will have their ways of doing it, where they've got to have their bottled water, or it's got to be on the stovetop, or
right.
It's got to be the exact precise measurements. And I try to get it close. Oftentimes, Astrid makes it for me in the evening when I'll get home, and hers always seems to be better than mine when I make it. So,
but, no, go figure. But, when you think about the way Café au lait is made at Café du Monde, it's tap water. I guarantee it's tap water.
Oh, yeah.
And it's probably not even filtered. And if it is, great for you guys. But, I don't think do you remember? Well, this is you know what? We'll table this discussion. We're already an hour over. See, I was like, how are we going to fill a half hour with beignet material? Easy. Absolutely easy.
Yeah.
It was not hard to do at all. So thank you for everybody for hanging in there. I am going to eat these in our after show, which is immediately following this. So this stream will after the credits whatever, the end scene is on, and you should watch till the end. I added in a little Easter egg at the end of the sign off today. If right after that we'll have another stream going both on YouTube and on Facebook, and this is where, even though we've been doing it in the episode, this is where we'll kind of talk stories and kind of go off script and talk about things that are related to beignets or could be related to anything else. It's our fun time. So believe it or not, David and I really don't talk much during the week. So this is our time. We got 30 years to catch up on. So so anyway, thanks everybody for joining us. And if you're watching on the replay, you'll probably see the edited version, which will have my video in it. If not, look for it on the YouTube site. I will post my edited video, and David, you're going to put your video up as well on your site.
Yeah, I gotta do a little bit more editing with some stuff. It'll probably be tomorrow by the time I get mine up.
Okay. All right, great. Well, thanks a lot, gentlemen, for joining us and everybody out there. And we'll see you in the after show if you join us.
I'm going to get some more coffee.
All right. Sounds good.
All right.
Bye.